The movie opens with the squad infiltrating the Korean demilitarized zone to rescue a defector from North Korea. Roadblock uses thermogloves to breach the perimeter fence alongside Duke and Flint while the rest of the team covers them. Duke signals the defector with a red light, then moves in with Roadblock to take out two soldiers closing in on the truck where the defector hides. Roadblock spots Flint attacking an enemy watchtower alone and orders Mouse to shoot him if he causes trouble. But on the way out, they find Flint has secured the tower and raised the GI. Joe flag over it. Later, the team celebrates at a bar, and Roadblock dunks Flint's head underwater as playful punishment for going off script. Duke is revealed as the team's new post-Nanomite war leader, overseeing Flint, Roadblock, Lady J, and Snake Eyes, while their enemies Cobra Commander and Destro sit in custody. Their underlings Storm Shadow and Zartan remain at large. Elsewhere, Storm Shadow's cousin Jinx is tested for Joe membership by her blind master, forced to defend herself against a blindfolded Snake Eyes. She hunts him through the dojo with swords, cutting his palm, but he tricks her with a blood drop decoy and pulls a hair from her head to defeat her. She storms off angrily, while a master sends Snake Eyes to investigate rumors of an upcoming attack. Back home, Duke and Roadblock learn from the news that a civil war has erupted in Pakistan following the president's assassination. At the White House, the cabinet authorizes military intervention to recover Pakistan's nuclear assets. The Joes are tasked with disarming the nuke. Duke briefs the team, putting Roadblock in charge of the ground assault while Flint and Jay back him up. They drop into the enemy base, fighting through dozens of hostiles. Duke closes in on the soldiers transporting the nuke under heavy fire until Jay and Flint back him up, securing the weapon and returning to camp. Duke radios success to the cabinet, sparking celebration as extraction begins. He and Roadblock then have a shooting contest, with Roadblock's promotion riding on the bet. Roadblock distracts Duke into missing before mowing down the target with a minigun. At the White House, the president steps into a shed with his bodyguard, who is revealed to be Zartan in disguise using nanomite technology. The real president is being held prisoner. Zartan confirms he's arranged for the Joes to be eliminated, then demands the location of Cobra Commander and Destro, which the president refuses to give. Back at camp, the Joes prepare for extraction as their helicopter arrives and opens fire on them instead. Flint is knocked down by a missile blast, and Duke risks his life dragging him to cover. Duke shoves Flint clear of another strike but is killed in the explosion himself. The rest of the squad is slaughtered. Lady J, Flint, and Roadblock dive into a nearby well to avoid detection, holding their breath underwater. At the White House, Zartan holds a press conference, falsely claiming the Joes went rogue, that Snake Eyes assassinated Pakistan's president, and the team stole the nuke. He announces he has no choice but to deploy his special ops unit, Cobra, to hunt them down. When Roadblock, Jay, and Flint surface the next morning, they find their squad reduced to ashes. Roadblock takes Duke's dog tags and assumes command, deciding to move east until they figure out a plan. Meanwhile, Snake Eyes is delivered to the Einstein prison, where Warden James escorts him into the subterranean depths to be held beside Destro and Cobra Commander, both submerged in stasis tanks, paralyzed but conscious. When James orders the helmet removed, he discovers Storm Shadow underneath, having taken Snake Eyes' place, though James doesn't care, so long as he has a famous prisoner in custody. Storm Shadow is placed into his own tank as well. In the Indus Valley Desert, the surviving Joes debate contacting headquarters, but Roadblock insists they were set up by someone powerful and need to trust no one but Snake Eyes. At the prison, a Cobra operative releases nanomites into the surrounding area. Storm Shadow spots one through a security camera and deliberately stops his own heartbeat, forcing guards to open his tank, at which point he drowns the guard and shatters the tank to escape, overpowering the rest of the guards. Outside, the nanomites detonate, taking out more guards, while Storm Shadow cuts through the remainder with his swords. The warden narrowly escapes by electrifying the wet floor beneath him. Meanwhile, the Cobra operative, Firefly, blasts through the gates with explosives. Storm Shadow frees Cobra Commander, who thanks him but abandons Destro entirely. The warden survives the blast and shoots a gas tank, badly burning Storm Shadow, prompting Cobra Commander to order him taken to the mountains to heal. Elsewhere, Snake Eyes watches the prison break unfold as Jinx arrives, offering to help track down Storm Shadow. Cobra Commander returns to his base with Zartan and Firefly, where his forces are building a devastating new weapon called Zeus to seize control of the world. Zartan reports that 3 Joes survived, enraging Cobra Commander, though Firefly volunteers tie them down personally. The surviving Joes reach Roadblock's old neighborhood, where his childhood friend Stoop helps them find refuge at a local recreation center. Roadblock assigns Flint to inventory their gear, while Lady J works to contact surviving Joes and investigate the president's suspicious behavior. Storm Shadow recovers from his burns at a remote mountain monastery as Jinx and Snake Eyes track him there. Back at the rec center, Flint worries they lack support to win this fight, but Roadblock encourages him with a story of how he transformed from a bullied kid into a recruited Joe. Lady J flags strange shifts in the president's speech and gestures, suspecting an imposter. Roadblock takes them to General Colton, the very first Joe, whom they can trust. Though skeptical of the imposter theory, Colton helps by pointing them toward the chief of staff's regular poker game and exploitable weaknesses. That night, Lady J seduces the chief of staff after his game, luring him into a car where the Joes pressure him for information, forcing him to make a call on their behalf. At the monastery, Snake Eyes and Jinx arrive just as a healed Storm Shadow prepares to leave. Spotting a throne guard, he squares off against Snake Eyes, attacking with shurikens before the two launch into a brutal brawl. Jinx fights off the woman who treated Storm Shadow, knocking her unconscious. Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes carry their fight to a mountain ledge, where Storm Shadow gains the upper hand, until Jinx knocks him out with a gas device. They stuff him into a body bag, surrounded suddenly by enemy soldiers, forcing Snake Eyes to zip-line the body down the mountain while he and Jinx rappel down themselves. Guards pursue along the line, catching up as the two fight them off in a tense wall-walking sword battle, ultimately luring the soldiers onto a glacier ledge that Snake Eyes shoots loose, triggering an avalanche that wipes them out. He and the body bag miraculously survive. Elsewhere, Lady J infiltrates a presidential event disguised as a reporter, signaling Roadblock and Flint waiting outside. Inside, she draws Zartan's attention while his bodyguard runs facial recognition on her. Zartan invites her to dance, but she declines and lifts a hair from his jacket to scan his DNA, confirming his identity, just as the bodyguard discovers hers as a Joe. She escapes before reinforcements arrive. Roadblock seizes the opportunity to kill Zartan in revenge for Duke, but Firefly's nanomites force him into a fight with Firefly instead. The two trade blows until Roadblock gains the advantage, only for Firefly to grab an iron rod and beat him down. Just as Firefly prepares to finish him, Jay and Flint run him over with their car, though he still escapes on his motorcycle. Meanwhile, Storm Shadow is about to be executed with the sword he allegedly used to kill his childhood dojo master, but proves his innocence by revealing the blade is a fake. Realizing he was framed, he pieces together it was Zartan, disguised as his new master back at the recreation center. Flint scolds Roadblock for his reckless attack on Zartan, but Roadblock refuses to back down. Lady J shares her own story, joining the army to prove her dismissive father wrong, only for him to pass away before she could outrank him. At the White House, Cobra Commander seizes control of America's nuclear arsenal using the president's retinal scan. Back at the rec center, the Joes piece together that Cobra's plan must involve nukes, since Zartan has been arranging a summit of nuclear powers. Jinx, Snake Eyes, and Storm Shadow arrive just then, and while Flint is skeptical of Storm Shadow's loyalty, his knowledge of Cobra's plan proves too valuable to ignore. They regroup at Colton's house, arming themselves from his arsenal as he brings in trusted allies. Roadblock briefs the team that night. Colton's group on the perimeter, Flint, Jay, and Snake Eyes on the flank, Jinx and Storm Shadow as the Trojan horse, while he personally takes on the tanks, assigning Storm Shadow to recover the briefcase from Zartan as the top priority. The next morning, nuclear leaders arrive at Fort Sumter, South Carolina, for the summit under heavy security. Cobra Commander and Storm Shadow arrive with their men as Zartan opens proceedings by ordering all nations to disarm, firing a live missile to prove he's serious. While the Joes move into position and take out guards, the leaders are coerced into disabling their weapons. Elsewhere, Jay and Colton storm the presidential retreat as Flint and Snake Eyes secure another section of the fort. Back at the summit, Zartan self-destructs his own nukes mid-air to shame the other leaders into doing the same, then unveils his true weapon, Zeus, a satellite system capable of launching tungsten strikes without radioactive fallout. Cobra Commander interrupts by firing one such strike directly at London, causing massive destruction. Cobra orders his flag raised over the White House and aims his satellites at the assembled nuclear powers, demanding total surrender. Storm Shadow launches his attack alongside Jinx and Snake Eyes, cutting down Cobra's soldiers as Zartan slips away with the briefcase. Roadblock crashes into the perimeter in an improvised armored vehicle, destroying tanks with sheer agility. Jinx evacuates the world leaders while Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow cut through more soldiers, Storm Shadow pursuing Zartan with Snake Eyes' borrowed sword. Storm Shadow corners Zartan in a flooded room, taking out his last guard before pressing the sword to his throat, only for a stray nanomite to detonate and blow them both apart. Firefly calmly collects the dropped briefcase and walks away. At the White House, Jay and Colton clear out the remaining guards, with Colton famously playing dead on the stairs to ambush a squad. Together, they confront the head of security, holding the real president hostage. Jay shoots the president in the arm to expose the guard to fire, and he's quickly eliminated, freeing the president. Elsewhere, Zartan, who survived the blast, holds Storm Shadow at gunpoint, but Storm deflects the bullet with his sword and drives it through Zartan's heart, finishing him for good. Jinx, Snake Eyes, and Flint clear the courtyard as Firefly slips away, and Cobra Commander orders his Zeus operators into position before fleeing in a helicopter. Flint alerts Roadblock to Firefly's escape, prompting him to abandon his disabled vehicle and chase the fleeing operative on a motorcycle with his minigun, pursuing him to the docks where Firefly boards a getaway boat. Roadblock clears a path of guards to the docks, commandeers another boat, and disables Firefly's vessel before ramming it to pieces. He fights Firefly hand-to-hand on the shore, choking him unconscious and recovering the Zeus briefcase, canceling the satellite launches just in time and causing the weapons to self-destruct in orbit, ending the threat for good. As Roadblock walks away, Firefly attempts one last act of sabotage with a hidden nanomite, only to discover the detonator is already in Roadblock's hand, triggering it to kill Firefly instead. Storm Shadow returns Snake Eyes' sword, who passes it on to Jinx as formal acceptance into the Joes. The surviving Joes are honored with medals by the president for their sacrifices. Jinx is officially welcomed into the squad,